Do you find yourself getting annoyed and very irritated and frustrated when you get stopped by too many red lights or a freight train or too many pedestrians get in your way? Have you ever pondered that maybe there's a reason why those delays were put in our path? Hi, my name is K.A Bloch, and I am the award winning poet and author of four books that consist of poetry and prose. My channel is called The Practical Poet, and on that channel, I do a weekly video poetry reading where I feature a poem and a backstory from one of my four books or even from some new material. I also have a blog of the same name at thepracticalpoet.com where you can read the written version of the poem and also read about the backstory. So this week I'm featuring a poem from my second book called Scatter Seeds of Kindness. And this is a poem that has to do with um, somebody kind of reflecting at the end of the day and looking back on their whole entire day, which didn't go as they planned at all. And so, in the very beginning of the poem, the person, the main character, and I don't know if it's a male or female. In my head, it's a female, but she's starting to kind of think about uh, her attitude toward others, her attitude toward just life in general. She's very frustrated. She's very tired of things slowing her down, things getting in her way, and it's impacting her relationship with not only with herself but with other people. And she's thinking about how she's been talking to people in her life, how she's been treating them, and she's feeling these frustrations build and grow. And right when she's thinking about, kind of reflecting on how she's treating other people and how these inconveniences are impacting her life, something happens right before her very eyes, and there is a car crash that she did not see coming, and it takes her back a little bit. So interesting thing about this poem, when I was writing this poem, typically in my books, if you're familiar, if you look through my books, I tell the backstory first. So I tell a little bit about the inspiration, the motivation, kind of what prompted me to write the poem. And this particular poem, I saved that for afterward. And the reason that I did that was I didn't want the reader to know that the car crash scene was coming. So I'm kind of telling you that little secret, but I didn't want the reader to know that there was going to be a car crash scene. I wanted them to kind of be taken by surprise by that scene as the person in this poem was taken aback when the car crash scene happened. And the funny thing about that is, and I talk about this a lot when I'm writing, sometimes I intend to start off writing a poem in one direction, and then the words come along and they're like, we're going to take you in a different direction. So I did not plan to write the car crash scene. That scene kind of unfolded on me as I was writing this poem. I just started talking, in the first couple verses about the woman and how frustrated she was. And before I even knew it, I was writing the car crash scene. And so this poem took me into an entirely different direction, which I suppose is fitting because in life, in our daily life and every day that we live, life doesn't, or our days typically don't go the way that we plan them to go, right? We might start off with the best intentions to get a bunch of stuff done, and then things happen, and we don't get half of the things done on our to-do list that we wanted to, and that's just life. And that's what kind of happened to this woman in the poem. She, or what that kind of is what kind of happened when I was writing this poem. I intended for it to go in one direction, and then before I knew it, I was writing the car crash first, and it even kind of took me aback. I was like, "Oh, I didn't see that coming," and I'm the one writing this poem, right? But the words, they're the boss, and they come along sometimes, and they say, "No, we're going to take it into this direction here." So, uh, so we'll get into the reading of the poem in just a moment, but just a couple of other things. The woman ponders as she's witnessing this car crash scene unfold, and I won't let you know if she was part of the car crash scene or just a witness. We'll get into that in just a moment, but as she's watching this car crash scene unfold, she's thinking about the fact that she was placed at that moment. And have you ever been placed in a moment in time and you're like, am I put here for a reason? Is there a reason that I was placed at this scene at this moment, or is there a reason that this is happening to me at this moment? And a lot of people believe there are no coincidences. And so if this woman was at this car crash scene, or if you've ever found yourself in a certain place and you're wondering why, a lot of people believe that there's no coincidences. So there is a reason why you are supposed to be there, or there's a reason why this woman was placed at that car crash scene. So I'd like to believe that. I'm not sure how I feel about coincidences. I do think sometimes things are coincidental, but other people say no. There's no accidents. There's no coincidences. It's all meant to be. And I kind of picture one of those drones flying overhead, or one of those bird eye scenes that you sometimes see of in the movies, especially where people are walking to and fro. They're opening doors. They're closing. Walking in and out of coffee shops, they're shopping, everybody's at the same place kind of at the same time, going about their business. But are they all meant to be there at the same time? Is there a reason why everybody is at that particular coffee shop at the same time getting their coffee? Like, what is the bigger message there? And that's kind of where I stumble a little bit with coincidence. It'd be nice if everybody was supposed to be, at the moment at that coffee shop or at wherever they're at the same time. But I'm not sure what the reasoning for that is. And that's when I get into sometimes there are coincidences. Sometimes we just be like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of feeling like I want a cup of coffee. I'm going to duck into this coffee shop and grab me a cup. I'm going to run into the Starbucks and get a cup for myself. And we're supposed to believe that that was pre-planned and not just a last minute decision. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about that whole theory on coincidences. But in this particular case, the woman does take a step back, and she starts thinking about her whole day so far and all of the frustration and how she's been talking to her loved ones and how it's impacting her relationships. And she starts to realize that as she's witnessing this car crash scene unfold, and she's seeing the hearing the screams of people, and she's hearing the sirens wailing from the rescue team that's coming to the car crash scene. And she's starting to realize, like, hey, maybe I got stopped by a couple red lights or a freight train, or some people got in my way, but I'm safe, and I'm not harmed, and no harm came to me today. And so she starts to have a little bit of a different perspective, and that's where the reflection comes from. She's realizing that there are people in this world that are suffering a lot greater than she's suffering from frustrations. And we're all human, right? We all get frustrated when things don't go our way, and when things slow us down, and when things prevent us from getting stuff done. But the truth of it is, if that's all that happens in our day, we're pretty darn lucky. There's a lot of people that have it a lot worse. Lots of people in the country and in the world that have it a lot worse. And so, I mean, that happened to me today. I was coming home, and I was approaching a light that happened to change, and a woman just started right in front of me, and she happened to be going straight, and I wanted to make a right turn, and she blocked me from making that right turn. And so I was kind of like, come on, I need to get home. There wasn't anything urgently that I needed to get home, but this woman just blocked my path, and it frustrated me. And I maybe had a couple of not kind words to say, but in the end, maybe there was a reason why she cut me off and prevented me from making that right hand turn. Maybe somebody was, going to be coming too fast from the opposite direction, and had I made my right turn, maybe they would have hit me or something like that. We'll never know. But ultimately, that wasn't, if that's the worst thing that happens in my day today, then it's a pretty good day, because there's a lot of people that do have it a lot worse. And so that's what the woman was reflecting on in this poem, and you'll hear that in just a moment. A lot of times when we hear bad things happening to people, we have, we may say a prayer. So a lot of times we say two prayers. We say a prayer for the person. I mean, if you do believe and you do pray, you may say a prayer for the person or the family that was impacted. We may, pray that they're safe, and that they're being watched over, and all the things that we say in prayer when we're, wishing somebody well. But we may also say a prayer for ourselves, right? We may also say, oh, thank God that that didn't happen to me, or thank God that that didn't happen to my family. And we say a little bit of a silent thank you that it happened to somebody else, and it didn't happen to our family. And that's just human nature, right? We're self-protective. We want to protect ourselves and our homes and our families. And so when we do hear about misfortune that befalls somebody else or another family, we of course are sympathetic to what they're going through, and we want to be there to help. But we're also grateful that we're safe, and that we weren't impacted by whatever tragedy or situation has befallen somebody else. And so in those moments, we may vow to do better. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that that didn't happen to me. And I'm going to help this family out. I'm going to donate to charity, or I'm going to pack up a bag of clothes and help them out if they need assistance, or give them money, or make dinners for them, or be charitable in whatever way I can. But how long does that really last? Because we say that in the moment, but then the next morning we may wake up and we're right back to the hustle and bustle again. We need to get out the door and get to work. If we have kids, they're probably pulling at our sleeves saying, Mommy, I need this, or Daddy, I need that. And we get busy and we get wrapped up with them. And before we know it, we're back in the car and we're rushing, and the lights are stopping us and the train is stopping us. And we're getting all that frustration out again. And it just builds and the cycle continues. So hopefully, we can find that time to reflect a little bit on how those frustrations are impacting us, how those frustrations are changing our mood and our mindset, and how we talk to others, and even how we talk to ourselves, and not let that steal the joy away from us. Because, like I said, if that's the worst thing that happens to us in the course of a day, we're pretty darn lucky. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get into the poetry reading of this week's poem, again from my book, Scatter Seeds of Kindness. And you can find this on my blog. My blog is thepracticalpoet.com/blog. You can find the written poetry there, along with the backstory. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick sip of tea. It's sunny out. It's actually warming up here today. It's going to be almost 40 degrees. So feeling very good and energetic today. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glasses on. And I'm going to go ahead and get into this poetry reading of Reflections of the Day. And listen for the car crash scene, because it's coming. From dawn to dusk, the words they flow inside my tired head. The things I did, the things I thought, those things I left unsaid. Or words I spoke with tongue too harsh that struck out of the blue. The look you gave, the hurtful eyes, what made me strike at you. The road rage on the way to work, the hurdles in my way, pedestrians stuck in my path, the train that caused delay, the frustration as it builds and grows, stuck in an intersection, a glance into the rearview mirror. I see my own reflection. It's tense and angry. Where's the joy to live another day? Too many thoughts roam through my head to chase that joy away. Then suddenly I see it hit, the car that ran the light, the crash, the boom, the breaking glass. I tense in fight or flight. Then sigh and breathe. It was not me. I'm safe out of the path. I take a moment, say a prayer. I'm spared this awful wrath. Someone's life just changed forever before my very eyes. The chaos as the scene unfolds, the desperate, anguished cries, the sirens blaring through the air take me back to reality. 3 seconds sooner had I approached, I knew this could be me. My fingers grip the steering wheel. My heart pounds through my chest. I slowly exit from the scene as my brain tries to digest. I reflect upon the day thus far, my thoughts so negative, when others suffer greater strife, yet have such will to live. I am annoyed by such small things that I let impact my day. I take to heart to my own harm things that get in my way. They slow me down, distract my mind, and throw my day off course. But perhaps there is a lesson there from some greater unseen force. I say a silent thank you. For some reason, I was spared. My heart goes out to those today whose lives were so impaired. I vow to turn my thoughts around, embrace the positive, and wave away bad energy. Life has too much to give. But as I learn to walk down this new path, I know I'll trip and fall. Bad thoughts will creep into my head. I am human, after all. So reflecting on this at the end of the day, I promise to do my best. But for now, it has been quite a day. So I'll allow myself to rest. So that was the poetry reading of Reflections of the Day from Scatter Seeds of Kindness. And again, just, the woman vowing to do better. She's witnessed something horrible and she's seen something terrible happen before her eyes. And she knows that, she has no business complaining about the slowdowns that got in her way, things that have impacted her day. She has nothing to complain about. And so maybe her witnessing this scene is enough to turn that around. But she's also acknowledging, like I mentioned earlier, when we hear of bad things happening, we all of a sudden become charitable, and we say, I'm going to do better. I'm going to donate money. I'm going to help provide meals. I'm going to do whatever I can. And then, before we know it, we get sucked back into our world, our day-to-day lives, and those things tend to go to the wayside. And we acknowledge that, we are just human after all, and we're trying to do the best that we can. But maybe there is an opportunity there for us to all do a little bit better. And just going back to people that have it much worse than we do, than much worse than being slowed down. People that have it much worse than me being slowed down today by that person that just darted in front of me and then stopped at the red light, and I couldn't get around her, and I got all frustrated about that. Think about things that are going on in the world. Think about people in California with the wildfires and everything. I mean, they'd probably be like, "That's what you're complaining about? You like, don't even talk to me. Like, I just lost my house." So there's always perspective, and there's always opportunities to do better, but there's opportunities to acknowledge that we are only human after all as well, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can, and get through our days. So I hope that you enjoyed this poetry reading of Reflections of the Day. If you like what you hear, you can like and subscribe, and you will be notified of my weekly poetry readings. Like I mentioned, you can also head over to my blog if you don't want to. Well, you've already sat through the poetry reading, but if you wanted to read it in printed form, you can check out my blog at the practicalpoet.com/blog. The poem is called Reflections of the Day, and I hope to see you again real soon. And try not to get frustrated when those things get in the way. They happen to all of us, and maybe we should all probably try to leave a little bit earlier and not be so rushed all the time, right? But again, we're only human, and that's just human nature. So thank you so much again for joining me. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll chat again real soon. Thanks.